Welcome back to the deep dive. We know you're here to get a real handle on complex stuff, quickly, but, deeply.
That's the goal.
So today we're jumping into Hinduism, or Sanatana Dharma, as it's also known.
Right.
We've looked at some really foundational sources, and our mission really is to pull out the core insights. What makes it unique? What are its key ideas, its diversity, and, well, why does it still resonate today?
It's a great topic. And actually, that name you mentioned, Sanatana Dharma, it's a perfect starting point.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, it translates roughly to the eternal way, or maybe universal truth.
Eternal way. Okay.
And unlike, say, many other major faiths that have a clear founder or a specific starting point in history, Hinduism is often described as this timeless stream, flowing from the ancient Vedas right up to modern practices.
So no single starting gun moment. It's always been there, in a sense.
That's the idea. That eternal quality suggests it's adaptable, always relevant, not fixed to one historical event.
Okay, so if it's this eternal way, not pinned down like that, what's the foundation? What gives it that continuity?
A really core concept is something called Raita, RTA.
Freita. Huh?
Think of it as the cosmic order, the inherent harmony and rhythm that governs everything in the universe.
Like a natural law, almost.
Sort of, yeah. But it's also about finding that order within yourself. The emphasis isn't just on external rules, but really on a journey of self-discovery. It's this continuous tradition of, inner awakening passed down from ancient sages, the rishis, right through to people practicing today.
That inner focus is interesting because when you look at how Hinduism is practiced, it seems incredibly varied. You've got elaborate temple rituals, quiet meditation, philosophical debates, selfless work. How does that all fit together?
The diversity is, well, it's fundamental. Hinduism is incredibly inclusive in that sense. It offers many different paths.
Many paths. Like what?
Well, the main ones often mentioned are Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, loving devotion. Then there's Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, of wisdom. Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action, doing your duty without attachment to results.
Right.
And Raja Yoga, the path often associated with meditation and mind control.
So it's like different tools for different people.
Exactly. It means someone deeply involved in temple worship, a scholar studying text, someone volunteering selflessly, or a renunciate meditating in seclusion. They could all find their own authentic way. It's definitely not one size fits all.
Makes sense. But with all these different paths, is there something like holding it all together, a common goal?
Absolutely. The underlying unity, the destination all these paths lead towards, is Brahman.
Brahman. That's the ultimate reality concept.
Yes, infinite consciousness, the source and substance of everything. Think of the paths like rivers, all flowing towards that same vast ocean.
Oh.
And this acceptance, this unity and diversity, it even extends to philosophy. You have major thinkers like, say, Adi Shankaracharya.
That Advaita Vedanta.
Yes, emphasizing strict non-dualism. Only Brahman is real. But then you also have Ramanujacharya, with a qualified non-dualism, seeing the world and souls as real attributes of Brahman. And someone like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, really emphasizing ecstatic devotion, particularly to Krishna. Different systems, but all respected within the broader Hindu umbrella.
It does sound very integrated. I've also heard it said that Hinduism doesn't really separate science and spirituality the way we often do in the West. Is there something to that?
That's a fascinating point. Looking back at the Vedas, the most ancient texts,
Yeah.
some interpretations find concepts that, well, seem to resonate surprisingly with later scientific ideas. Things related to maybe the speed of light or the fundamental nature of matter, even hints about gravity.
Really? In texts that old, how so?
Well, it's not like finding EMC squared written down, obviously, but more in the way they describe the universe. The focus on fundamental elements, on energy, on cycles. Some hymns, when interpreted through a modern lens, seem to hint at an understanding of, say, atomic structure or cosmic principles. It suggests an early alignment, perhaps, between observing the world and seeking spiritual truth.
So an intuitive grasp of natural principles alongside the spiritual quest.
Perhaps. And then you get the Upanishads, which are more philosophical. They dive really deep into the big questions, like what is the self, the Atman? What is consciousness? What's the true nature of reality? And how does our individual self, the Atman, relate to that ultimate reality, Brahman?
Big questions indeed.
And those philosophical explorations, they're still incredibly relevant today, even in discussions around consciousness in science and philosophy.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Karma, rebirth, Moksha. These are pretty central concepts, aren't they? How do they fit together?
They really form the core of the soul's journey in Hinduism. Karma is essentially the law of cause and effect.
Right. What goes around comes around.
Sort of. But it's maybe deeper than just reward and punishment. The emphasis is really on learning. Every action, physical, mental, verbal, creates an effect, a ripple. And those effects shape our experiences.
So it's a feedback loop for growth.
Exactly. It's about the purification of the soul through experience. Learning from consequences, you could say.
Okay. And rebirth.
Rebirth, or
Yeah.
reincarnation, is the idea that this learning process doesn't just happen in one lifetime.
Mm.
The soul, the Atman, continues its journey through multiple lives,
Mm-hmm.
carrying the karmic imprints, the lessons learned, and the lessons yet to be learned from one life to the next. It's an evolution.
Towards what? What's the end goal of this cycle?
The end goal is moksha, liberation.
Liberation from.
The cycle itself, liberation from birth and death, freedom from suffering, and ultimately realizing the soul's true nature, its inherent unity with the divine, with Brahman.
So it's not just about getting a good rebirth, it's about getting off the wheel altogether.
Precisely. It's about transcendence, realizing that ultimate oneness.
Another thing often associated with Hinduism is nonviolence, ahimsa, and tolerance.
Yes, Ahimsa is a really foundational ethic. And it's more than just not committing physical violence.
How so?
It extends to thought, word, and deed, striving for harmlessness in all aspects of being. It's a very profound concept.
And hugely influential, right? Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They drew heavily on this principle. And related to this is the deep-seated tolerance within Hinduism, often summed up by that famous quote from the Rig Veda.
Which one is that?
Ekam sat vipra bahuta vadanti.
Okay. Meaning?
Truth is one, the wise call it by many names.
Ah, right. I've heard that.
It perfectly captures this inherent respect for different paths, different perspectives, the idea that various religions or philosophies might be different ways of describing the same ultimate reality. It fosters a natural pluralism.
Truth is one. The wise and call it by many names. That really encapsulates that inclusive idea we talked about earlier.
It really does.
Now, something else I find fascinating is the role of nature. There seems to be a deep reverence for the natural world.
Yes, very much so. In the Hindu worldview, the universe isn't just inert matter, it's sacred.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Rivers are often personified as goddesses, trees are revered, animals are seen as imbued with a divine spark. It fosters a deeply ecological way of being, really, a sense of interconnectedness.
That sounds incredibly relevant today.
It really is. There's even a concept called the Panch Mahayajnas, the 5 great sacrifices or acts of reverence.
Okay, what are they?
They involve showing respect and gratitude towards the divine forces, towards ancestors, towards other human beings, towards animals and other living creatures, and towards the natural elements. It grounds you in this web of relationship and responsibility.
5 layers of connection. That's quite holistic. Okay, but what about all the gods and goddesses? There seem to be so many. How does that fit with the idea of one ultimate reality, Brahman?
That's a common question, and it's key to understanding Hindu practice. The multitude of deities, Shiva, Vishnu, Devi in her many forms, Ganesha, and so on,
Yeah.
they aren't generally seen as separate competing entities like, say, in ancient Greek polytheism. Rather, they represent different facets, different cosmic functions, or different personal pathways to the one ultimate divine reality.
So they're like different expressions of Brahman.
Exactly, or different forms that help individuals connect with the divine in a way that resonates with them personally. Someone might feel a deep devotional connection to Krishna, another to Shiva, another to the Divine Mother.
Mm-hmm.
But underlying that devotion is often the understanding that these are all aspects of the one. It allows for rich, personal relationships with the divine while maintaining that ultimate unity.
So it accommodates both the personal, relatable form and the ultimate formless reality.
Precisely. And this ties back to that core Upanishadic realization, Aman Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. The divine isn't just out there in temples or heavens, it's the very essence of your own being. That spark is within you.
Aham Brahmas. I am Brahman. That's a powerful idea. Now, what about the scriptures themselves? The Vedas, Upanishads, the epics. Are they treated like infallible holy books, or is it different?
It's generally quite different from a scriptural literalism you might find elsewhere. They're definitely revered, but often seen less as static dogma and more as